A global corporation rolls out a massive ad campaign praising its commitment to a green future. But half a world away, that same company is quietly bypassing emissions tests and dumping industrial waste to maximize its quarterly profits. When a business crosses into a country with weaker environmental protections and labor laws, the legal floor drops. Without those strict local rules, the only thing guiding corporate behavior is international business ethics, a moral compass for operating outside your home jurisdiction. Ignoring that compass carries a massive price tag. In 2009, Satyam Computers, a giant in the Indian IT sector, completely collapsed. Chairman Ramalinga Raju admitted to systematically falsifying profits and balance sheets to deceive investors. Integrity functions as a structural component of the business. Its absence creates a systemic vulnerability, wiping out shareholder value overnight, invite devastating legal fines, and trigger aggressive international trade conflicts. That vulnerability often starts with predatory pricing strategies, specifically a practice known as dumping. This occurs when a company exports a product to a foreign market and deliberately sells it at a price far below the actual cost of production. The goal is to starve local companies of revenue. Chinese steel producers, for instance, flooded American and European markets with extremely cheap steel. Local manufacturers couldn't compete with those artificially low prices, forcing many to shut down operations entirely. In other cases, multinationals exploit developing nations to bypass safe labor laws. They set up supply chains in regions where oversight is nearly non-existent, leading to severe abuses where miners are forced to work grueling shifts on manufacturing assembly lines for wages well below a living standard. Then there is the active criminality of counterfeiting and bribery. Fake goods steal valuable intellectual property while bypassing safety standards. And when companies bribe local officials to secure contracts, they destroy tax revenues and channel millions of dollars into organized crime networks. Treating foreign borders purely as regulatory loopholes to extract profit destroys fair competition. Ultimately, it fractures the entire global supply chain by prioritizing short-term gains over long-term stability. Yet, cross-border ethical dilemmas do not always come from malicious intent. Often, they emerge from deep cultural barriers involving different communication styles, attitudes toward deadlines, and contrasting social expectations. A company from the United States or Germany might expect a highly direct, explicit style of negotiation, pushing for immediate signatures on a contract. But in regions like Japan or India, business is deeply rooted in indirect communication, where establishing trust and a relationship must happen before any deal is finalized. This focus on holistic relationships is heavily influenced by deep cultural frameworks, like the ancient Indian concept of dharma. Dharma represents right conduct, duty, and social responsibility. Under this framework, a business is expected to balance artha, or profit, with righteousness and the higher purpose of the community. It rejects the cutthroat profit-at-all-costs model in favor of sustaining societal harmony. Success in the global market depends on cultural empathy, the practice of aligning a corporation's financial goals with the human well-being of the specific communities they serve. To help companies navigate this complex environment, governments support the OECD guidelines on responsible business conduct. This acts as a modern blueprint for establishing global accountability. At the core is a 6-step process to root out supply chain risks. First, embed responsible policies, identify risks, and implement measures to stop harmful effects. Then, track actions, communicate results, and provide compensation if harm occurs. This separates a basic compliance-based code, where a company merely follows the letter of the law to avoid fines, from a value-based code. A value-based approach is driven by internal moral standards, prioritizing public good. We see this value-based model succeeding at the highest levels. Organizations like Infosys and the Tata Group, under the leadership of figures like Ratan Tata, have used exceptional transparency and ethical governance to build deep, resilient trust across international markets. Today, integrating environmental, social, and governance principles into your daily operations is a baseline requirement to attract top-tier global talent and secure funding from modern institutional investors. With every supply chain decision now visible to the public within seconds, corporate integrity provides a layer of operational security. For a multinational today, maintaining these high ethical standards determines whether it builds the trust necessary to survive another decade of global trade.